Morning, good evening, from wherever you are joining. Today, we are going to talk about driving water stewardship in Novozymes using a contextual-based approach. So our agenda for today is to take you through Novozymes strategy and the contextual approach. We're also going to talk about context-based water management programs that we are doing in the Americas, in China, and also in India. We would also like to share our learnings and our future plan of action with all of you. This is our team. We have Kopal Garg. She is the manager for operations, supply and quality, responsible for context-based water management programs globally. We have Helga, who is a regional sustainability analyst based out of Canada. Helga is responsible for the context-based water management program in the Americas. Chengxi is a senior lean process engineer responsible for water projects in the APAC and MEA region. And Sanjay is the director of supply operations at the Mumbai plant. He is passionately leading sustainability across social projects, specifically the Project Novo in India. And then there is myself, Radhika, sustainability analyst based out of Bangalore, India. And I support the global sustainability team with water stewardship and operations. Before we begin, we would like to ask you to please use the poll and also tell us which country and water basin you are joining from.
So if I can jump in, you will see a poll in the Pathable platform, and you can choose to answer from the Pathable platform, and we will be able to see the results here. Please go ahead and enter your responses. Okay, so
we have people from the Middle East,
yes, Arabia,
Saudi Arabia.
Let the answers keep coming in. Okay. We have from Bangladesh, Germany, East India, Ganges, okay.
Japan.
Yes. And yeah, a lot from India, from the Southeast Asia. Okay. Brahmaputra. That's great. There are a lot of varied river basins. Anyone from Europe? All right. Okay, I think that's good to know. We have a good, diverse audience here. So let's move ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I will now hand over to Kopal, who will talk about Novozymes strategy and contextual approach.
Thank you, Radhika. I think before we begin, I would like to talk a little bit about Novozymes and what Novozymes as a company is into. We are the world's leading biotech powerhouse today, and we are using biotechnology to provide solutions that are good for the planet. We mainly develop enzymes and microorganisms, which are used in a variety of industrial applications. And many of our applications actually provide sustainable answers to the growing challenges that we see around the world. For example, our solutions in the wastewater treatment and the household care They address a lot of challenges related to water quality, and by replacing the conventional chemicals being used in the products across some of these industries. Um, uh, our process itself is also a water intensive process, and that's why we are also here to talk about why water is such an important and key topic for us to work with internally as well. Before we move on, I would also like to talk a little bit about Novozymes' purpose. Together we find biological answers um, for better lives in a growing world. Let's rethink tomorrow. So the first word, together, what we really aim for is that the all the challenges that are there in the world, the solutions for those cannot be found by working in isolation. So we work with our partners, we work with our stakeholders, our customers to find the answers to the challenges that we have by using the power of biology. And we welcome all our partners, we welcome all our stakeholders to rethink tomorrow on how we can use the power of biology to help address the challenges that we have. Moving on, why are we working with water? In Novozymes, as I mentioned before, water is one of the top sustainability priorities for us. We have certain commitments to a healthy planet that are around climate, water, and circular. And I'll focus today on water because for us, water is a key topic because we are heavily dependent on water for our own production processes, but also we impact water both upstream and downstream. When it comes to our overall ambition, our strategy, we aim to manage water in balance by 2030 in all the regions that we operate in. Um, Talking a little bit about why water is such an important issue for us, it presents both risks and opportunities across our value chain. If I talk about our own operations, of course, we are dependent upon fresh water usage in the production. Because the production of enzymes and microorganisms rely heavily on the freshwater usage. At the same time, we are also generating wastewater. So then it becomes of utmost importance that we, as a responsible corporate, are taking ownership of the actions and the way we use water. If we look upstream, many of our raw materials are ag-based. So those raw materials, they need water during the production, especially during the ag base. And we know agriculture forms almost 70% of the overall water consumption that happens globally. So that's where our impact is upstream, but downstream is how we make an impact is through our solutions. So some of our solutions in the wastewater treatment industries, and especially also in the household care, have a positive impact on both customers as well as, in many cases, at the end consumer side, because our solutions basically help in replacing conventional chemicals and providing a more sustainable option for the products that we use. Moving on, I think I would like to touch upon what drives us with respect to water. Of course, it's an important key material topic for us, but also we are guided by UN Sustainable Development Goal 6 on clean water and sanitation. Our ambition for 2030 is to manage water in balance with local conditions. And to achieve that, we have identified some key strategic pillars that will help us reach that ambition. You see 6 key pillars on this slide. The first one being developing contextual water management programs. I think this is one of the most foundation level pillars that we have identified, because back, some few years back when we started with our water stewardship journey, I think the first question that came to our minds was, okay, how do we really balance our resources, our investment across the different locations that we are present? We are a global organization, so how do we really tackle, the multiple challenges that we face? And I think the answer was the contextual approach, by understanding the local conditions of the watershed and identify what the mitigation actions for those are. That also helped us prioritize where we should spend our maximum time, where should be the maximum effort, and where it's important to, keep managing proactively, because the challenges are not that significant as compared to few other sites. Um, we, of course, focus on reduction and reuse within our own operations, depending upon what the challenges are at that site. We also believe that it's really important to develop partnerships for innovation, especially around recycle and reuse, given the challenges and the limitations which exist in the reuse and recycle industry due to multiple local regulations, regulatory frameworks that varies from country to country, basin to basin. So this becomes also an important pillar for us. Um, Moving on, I think one of the key aspects also of our strategy is engagement with the different stakeholders on water, and collaboration and collective action. So water challenges are shared challenges. So if we need to find solutions, we need to work together with the different stakeholders that are present in a particular basin. And for us to effectively address the challenge, it's important that we work with the different stakeholders, we collaborate with the different people in the basin, and we work not just internally, but also outside our boundary in the basin to preserve the freshwater ecosystems for overall water security. Not last but not the least, we are also working with experts to set science-based targets. Novozymes is one of the organizations who has set science-based targets for climate, and we would like to do the same for water. And we are working with the Science-Based Targets Network to also identify what the right targets in alignment with science are for our key priority sites. Having said that, I would like to just pose a little question here for the audience today. Do you see any areas where you have synergies, where you also work with, and if there are, any other area that you specifically work with and not see here? Would be great to see that in the chat. So feel free to write in the chat, and we will have a look, and would be really great to discuss that after the presentation in the Q&A. Yes, I think moving on, this is basically to provide more context of the contextual programs and the approach towards water management. Like I said, it's an approach that has really provided a strong direction and foundation to our water stewardship journey, and helped us identify the right challenges and the right areas where we need to work with. And my colleagues, Helga, Shaoxi, will further talk about it in the presentation. So I won't take a lot of time here, but let's move on and look at some of the experts that we are working with. In order to achieve our ambition of being in balance, we are learning on the way. There are science-based methodologies that are still getting developed, but there are also the other concepts around contextual water management and others that are guiding us throughout our journey. And we are working with Science-Based Targets Network. We are working with CEO Water Mandate to help us guide through our journey. We have also partnered with WWF, where we are working with them in implementing collective actions in around our sites in China. My colleague Shaoxi will talk about it later in the presentation. However, one thing that I would like to emphasize here is that what we have learned is that it's really important to be guided by these global experts in the field of water stewardship and work together to keep track of what the developments are. And so far, it has been really helpful for us to have that regular dialogue with these organizations to help us further provide direction to our water stewardship journey. I think with that, I'll end here and hand over to Helga, who will take us into more details of what the contextual program is, how we have implemented it within Novozymes, specifically covering some examples from Americas. Helga, over to you.
Thank you, Kopal. I'm really happy to be joining everyone today from Canada's capital city, Ottawa, at 4:17 a.m. So bear with me, it's early. What I want to do is share with you some of my experiences in developing contextual water management plans in the Americas. Can you move to the next slide, please, Radhika? Thank you. Novozymes has 14 production facilities, 8 of which are in the Americas. Now, the power of a contextual water management plan is not only to operate in balance with local conditions, but to prioritize actions based on risk. This is particularly important for a global company with 14 sites located in vastly different watersheds. As Kopal mentioned a couple slides ago, our ambition is to operate in balance with local conditions at 100% of our sites by 2030. The first step, what I'm going to talk about, is to make a plan. Developing these plans naturally fell into a 4-step process. Firstly, we needed to change mindsets. Contextual water management isn't just about water reduction. Secondly, we needed to perform a thorough risk analysis. And then based on this risk analysis, we had to prioritize our production facilities. And finally, we developed mitigation actions, which got rolled up into the plan. Radhika, if you could move to the next slide, please. Now, it's no easy task to change someone's mind, let alone a group of people's mind. Change is hard. Change is even scary. And an unavoidable effect of change is that it implies that what we used to do isn't good enough anymore. And that doesn't typically make people feel good. At the beginning of this journey, for each site, I'd hold a kickoff meeting. The purpose of this meeting was to introduce the concept of contextual water management to the site's team. Now, at almost every site, someone would show up to this meeting prepared with a list of projects that they've executed over the last 5-10 years that saved X amount of water. And they would share this list with a combination of pride, but also exasperation. How much more water reduction did I expect them to achieve? That, of course, is not what contextual water management is about. And so I thank them for their hard work, because, you know, any water saved is a good thing, right? But then I would say something really annoying like, yeah, but is scarcity a problem in this basin? Shifting from traditional water management to contextual water management is a shift in perspective. Traditional water management focuses inwards on production and almost exclusively on reducing water consumption. Contextual water management requires you to shift your focus outwards to the water basin where you operate. Next slide, please, Radhika. Alrighty. If you're going to ask your boss for a pile of money to purchase the latest and greatest equipment to start recycling water in your production facility, you better have a good reason. That's why it's so important to understand the risks. With contextual water management, it's not just your operational risks, it's also the basin risks. And most importantly, it's understand where these operational risks and basin risks overlap. Now, my people, we know our production. We are a biotech powerhouse. I can walk out on the production floor and ask any operator, what process, what piece of equipment, what uses the most water? What needs the most water to be cleaned? What needs the cleanest water to operate? They know that inside and out. Our knowledge of the basin, however, is not quite so good. Next slide, please, Radhika. But this is where we lean on my favorite Novozymes corporate value, connect to create. I don't need to become a water expert, and I don't really want to be a water expert, but I want to identify and work with the experts. We identified the WWF as an expert we wanted to work with. Not only do they help us understand what contextual water management is all about, but we also engage them to conduct a global risk assessment. Now, as a biotech firm, we grow bugs in water. We clean with water. We sterilize with steam. The list goes on and on. Water scarcity is a very high operational risk for us at every site. But where's water scarcity a high basin risk? Where does that water scarcity overlap for both operation and basin? That's what we need to know. If you go to the next slide, please, Radhika. The global risk assessment conducted by the WWF was our first step to identify the basin risks. But in addition to this global risk assessment, we conducted a local one with the help of a firm called the Water Council. So why both a global and local risk assessment? Why do the same thing twice? Well, as I've come to learn, one of the biggest challenges in water management is the lack of open source data. Global data sets are simply limited in the quantity of their data. So let's take an example from one of our production facilities located in North Carolina. Here, the global data set indicated a low risk for water scarcity. But when we did our local risk assessment using local information, we found a very high risk for water scarcity. In fact, the area is expected to utilize almost 80% of its contracted water supply by 2030, and is expected to exceed this water supply by 2050. This risk to water availability not only affects our future expansion plans, but our freedom to operate. This is a huge basin risk for us. Next slide, please, Radhika. After conducting our global and local risk assessments for each production facility, we identified 5 priority sites. These 5 sites are responsible for more than 85% of our global water consumption and are all located in water-stressed regions. Next slide, please. All right, so we've changed mindset. We've got everybody on board. We're looking outward towards the basin, not just inward towards our production. We've conducted a thorough risk assessment using global data sets and working with local experts. And we now know where our high operational risks overlap with high basin risks. And we've used this risk assessment to prioritize our sites. That's where we are. Now we need to start developing some mitigation plans. How are we going to lower and minimize the impact of these risks? One example I'd like to share with you is for a production facility we have in Nebraska that has both a high operational consumption risk and a high basin scarcity risks. What actions can we implement in order to minimize these risks? Well, first of all, we need to map water consumption. We need to support, or maybe disprove, our current understanding of where we consume water with data. Then we need to set some science-based reduction and reuse targets. If we reduce water consumption by 5%, what's the impact on the basin? Is 5% too low? Is it too high? This is another place where we're going to need to connect to create with some local experts to better develop these targets. We can't do this on our own. Next slide, please, Radhika. Regardless of whether you're a high priority site or not, you have risks, which means you need mitigation actions. Generally within Novozymes, contextual water management plans are to be implemented with existing staff and budgets, the only exception being for high priority sites. At high priority sites, we may need to invest in new technologies, and this is going to require additional spending for equipment, and of course for the people power required to manage these installations. At some high priority sites, we have identified collective actions, which Shenhui will share with you momentarily, as well as WASH programs that Sanjay will share with you later in the presentation. It all depends on what the risks are in that basin. Alrighty, next slide. Okay, so not so fast. We're not quite done. We've changed mindsets. We've developed our risk profile. We've set our priorities. We have mitigation plans, and we have a heck of a lot of good intentions. A plan, however, we don't have. It is so important to give all this great work we've done some structure. Otherwise, the work will be forgotten the moment a shiny new problem arises. And in the world of production, there are no limits to shiny new problems. So, how are you going to ensure consistency throughout your organization? Who's going to approve your plans? How do you know your plans are going to be executed? How do you anchor that work into your existing frameworks? Who's responsible for it? There's no real right or wrong answers to those questions, but you need some answers. You need to have a structure in place. All right, now we're done. And with that, I'll pass the baton on to Shenhui, our senior lean process engineer based in China, who will share with you some collective actions that we've put in place as part of our contextual water management plans there. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thanks, Helga. Thanks for sharing the contextual water management in America. I'm Chen Xi from Novozymes, China, and currently am responsible for context-based water program in China. And in Novozymes China sites, we use the same methodology, just as Helga mentioned, to develop the action plan addressing to our water risk. Today, I would like to highlight the water collective action in China sites to share with you these quite critical parts in our mitigation actions. And next slide, please, Radhika. Thanks. So, considering the water usage and risk level, we selected Tida site in Tianjin and Hongda site in Suzhou as our two priority sites in China. If you look at Tianjin Tida site on the left, it occupies 15% of Novozymes global total water withdrawal. It's located in Haihe River Basin, which is the largest river in North China. The total population here is nearly 124 million. The risk assessment result shows the one of the water challenge here is scarcity. One reason is from the basin itself, such as the less tributaries and less raining. Another is related to human factor. Haihe River is in a plain area with a large amount of population, which results in large water consumption for both life and manufacturing. The other challenge here is reputational risk. That means the media is more sensitive in this area. When some kinds of negative events happen, there will be a high exposure of this area. So based on the key water challenges with scarcities and reputational, our focus mitigation action is to unite local stakeholders together to contribute and influence our surrounding river basin. Just as Kupal mentioned, the water challenges are shared challenges. So Tianjin Tida site is surrounded by Tida industrial area, which includes thousands of companies. And this is a favorable condition to launch collective action for water. And with the support of WWF, we would like to develop a water stewardship guidance for Tida Industry Park that can be used both for government and companies in this area, aiming at helping industry park improve the capacity of water management and also helping companies to improve water efficiency and performance. Meanwhile, we want to be a leading company to facilitate a basin-level dialogue platform for exchanging and sharing of water management experiences into the area. And then if you look at Honda site in Suzhou on the right, the total water withdrawal is 70% out of global, and it's located in the Yangtze River Basin. In the total area of the basin is nearly 1.8 million square kilometers. That accounting for 18.8% of China's land area. There are many tributaries and lakes here. Honda site is in an adjacent area of Taihu Lake. And the weather system here is really complex and is easily affected by typhoon and rainy season. After 1980s, the booming of industry and agriculture around Taihu Basin make water quality is one of the challenges. Therefore, flooding quality and again, the reputational risk are identified as the key water challenges here from the assessment results. And based on the water risk in Taihu Basin, we believe there will be a new management mood to conduct water collective action. In this way, we want to identify and evaluate nature restoration projects that support improvement of water quality. And we also want to participate and contribute to a multi-stakeholder platform in Taihu Basin. And then next slides, I'm going to zoom in the nature restoration project in Honda area. As we know, wetlands plays an important role in storing water, recharging groundwater, and maybe improving water quality. Meanwhile, wetland is an important habitat for water birds. So it will have a positive impact to conserve important wetland in Taihu Basin, and at the same time to raise public awareness on wetland protection. And here is Jincang Lake Park. It's located in the southwest of Taishan City, which is only 10 kilometers away from Honda site. It may not be a large wetland in Yangtze River Basin, but we thought it should be a good example to benefit our surrounding water. The wetland area occupies 56% of the total area. As you know, we started partnership for water stewardship journey with WWF. And in this year, WWF and the external technical team, they are helping us to develop a restoration plan for Jincang Lake wetland in order to optimize the ecosystem function through habitat management and freshwater biodiversity enhancement. In traditional mode, the wetland management ownership comes from government on its own. We hope to apply PPP mode in wetland conservation, which means public-private partnership. It is a mode that government and public, especially the companies, working together. And Novozymes willing to be the pioneer, to be involved in the wetland production as a social engagement. We hope to gradually transfer the wetland from a landscape functional park to a wetland with improved ecosystem services, and that will finally contribute to improve our local water condition. And in addition, we cooperate with WWF, Suzhou Wetland Nature School, and local NGO to design a water bird flyer in Jincang Lake wetland. And we are going to run wetland educational event. All the purpose is to raise public awareness on wetland protection. So this is one case about what we are going to do in Novozymes China side. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the results and the impact on our local water condition. And next, welcome Sanjay from Mumbai side to share us a best practice in India.
Hello everyone, my name is Sanjay. I'm sitting in Mumbai, and our manufacturing location is almost 65 kilometers from the Mumbai airport. It is in the Konkan area. You can go to the next slide, Radhika. Yeah, so that area is known for very heavy rain. And when you look at the local conditions, I think you can see the photograph there. There is a scarcity of water. The women of the village has to spend full day to fetch the water or to make the water arrangement for their family. And even IPCC 2020 report and ISWPM 2018 report says that this part of India, particularly the Konkan part of Maharashtra, has a scarcity of water. Just to give you an example, in heavy rains, we get almost 2,600 millimeters of rain in the plain ground. On the hills, almost 5,000 millimeters of rain. So it is very heavily rain. If you look at the condition, we are really lacking about water storage and water transportation. So that's what the condition. And then what we decided to address this through our contextual water-based program. We wanted to address the local need of the people. At the same time, we wanted to address the water basin risk. So both the risk we address together. I think I can show you the small glimpse of it. We prepared one video. I think we can go to the next slide and play the video to see what is the outcome. Okay, I'll spend a few lines on the project. What is this project is all about? So you can see we have done it in the two phases. In the first phase, we ensured that the locals get water, sufficient water at their doorstep. So that was, really addressing regenerating their old water resource, creating the new water source for them, and ensuring that they get water at their doorstep. So that was our first phase. In the second phase, our hills get very heavy rain, like I said, 5,000 millimeters of rain. We ensured that the water on the hill stores down. So we put the gabion burn, we put loose boulder structure so that water get percolated in the ground. And the erosion of soil of the hill get reduced. So that was our second phase. I think we can go to the next slide. And the benefits and impact, the outcome. We have finished this project, with the project. Almost 800 families got the benefit. They got water at their doorstep, and they're very happy about what Novozymes has contributed to their better life. And we have, our project is actually will ensure that 3 million cubic meter of water getting recharged to the ground, which is almost 15 times more than what we consume our manufacturing location. So that was a big achievement. And in social impact, our women in this area, they are no longer to struggle for full day for water. Even we ensured that we formed the village development committee, and that village development committee should actually, they are taking care of awareness and accountability of water in the village. So overall, this is we addressed it and we made it sustainable. So that's what this all program is all about. And we can go to the next slide where we play the video.
From water scarcity to water surplus, this is the story of change by Novozymes. Year 2019. We, as a socially responsible corporate, identified severely water-stressed villages, Thakurwadi and Sainagar, in the Vadgaon Gram Panchayat around the Patal Ganga river basin in Maharashtra. This area was neglected from watershed development works, resulting in very low soil and water conservation, and getting access to drinking water was painfully difficult here. The women of these villages would travel 2 kilometers or more in hilly terrain to fetch water for fulfilling their daily needs. To address these issues, a historic rural development program was undertaken by Novozymes by engaging the Anarde Foundation. Water security was the key aim to suffice the water needs of the villagers. For soil and water conservation, activities like loose boulder structures, gabion and core wall gabion, recharge trench and recharge shaft, well and water scheme rejuvenation were carried out. These helped in increasing surface water storage as well as groundwater recharge and provided water at the doorsteps of the villagers.
आज ह्या वाडीत 70-80 घर आहेत, परंतु पाण्याचं भरपूर हाल होतंय.
मार्च महिन्यापर्यंत पाणी भरपूर असायचा विहिरीमध्ये. त्यानंतर पाणी कमी कमी होऊन ते संपूर्ण विहिरी सुकून जातात. विहिरीत गाळ भरपूर असायचा.
डोक्यावर हाणायचं पाणी. एवढे लांबून शाने मग साहेब लोकांना दया आली तर दारादारात न दिला.
Now, to care for the environment, we've also planted around 1,500 horticultural trees in and around Thakurwadi village. Similar efforts have also been extended to adjacent villages like Borivli Katkariwadi and Dhangarwadi. This is not the end. The story of Project Novo will continue in and around the entire Patal Ganga river basin.
We can go to the next slide. Yeah. Over to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sanjay. I think that was a great representation of what has been done with regards to WASH in the Patal Ganga River Basin. I think I'll take over here again to talk a little bit about our learnings and way forward in Novozymes on what we are going to do with the contextual approach next. Right. So looking forward, now that we have identified the key challenges, now that we have identified our priority areas, or the sites that we need to really implement, the right solutions, the collective actions, what do we do next? The first thing that we would like to, and we are currently working on as we speak, is identifying these contextual targets for our priority sites. And when we say contextual targets, it's basically, the challenges that have been identified as part of these contextual programs. What do we do to ensure that we are mitigating those challenges? A lot of our priority sites, as Helga also alluded to, are in the water stress basin, which would eventually mean that we will have to reduce our water consumption. Is it either through, reducing our water consumption by having more water efficient processes, or ensuring there is a way to reuse and recycle water within our own operations, which will ultimately lead to freshwater reduction. But this could also mean that there could also be certain challenges around flooding or droughts, and how do we address those? So based on the challenges that we have identified, we'll implement these contextual targets, especially for our priority sites. We'll continue the implementation of the contextual programs and ensuring that there is a way to review the programs and the risks that have been identified at the site. water as a resource is dynamic, and the challenges around water are also dynamic. We are aware of that fact, and we want to ensure that our programs keep into consideration the changing conditions around water. So we will ensure that our programs are reviewed, the risk assessments are, the results of the risk assessments are reviewed on a frequent basis, so that we keep accounting for the upcoming challenges or any challenge from, or prevent any challenge from becoming too big, so that they don't pose a much bigger challenge for us. So we'll continue doing that. We will also expand the current collective actions that we have in our priority regions, especially around China and in our Mumbai site. We'll also look for what else do we need to do to address the challenges that we have in other priority sites. Like I also mentioned previously, we will continue to work with the science-based methodology and apply the draft of the methodology that is right now available in one of our priority sites. With that, I think I would move to the next slide. So I think I would really like to share, our learnings from the entire, last few years and working with the water stewardship approach that we have, especially around this new, if I can say, this new concept of contextual water management rather than the traditional way of managing water, focusing mainly on efficiency and water reuse and recycle. I think the first thing that comes to our minds is action on water cannot wait. I think it's high time that as a responsible citizen or as a responsible corporate, we understand that the challenges around water are something that has the potential to impact the communities, the industries, the corporates, and everyone who uses water as a shared resource. And it's really important that we recognize that water is a human right. Access to clean water is a human right. So we need to work on water in the capacity that we can. What we have also learned through this contextual approach is that to create a maximum impact, we need to identify the right things that we need to focus on in the right places. As an organization, it becomes a challenge to focus equally on all the sites. So identify which are the key priority sites for you, identify the right actions for there, and then find a way to proactively manage the risks at the non-priority sites. One thing that really came out during the entire process of implementing this approach is that we cannot make programs, we cannot achieve success if we keep working at a global level without understanding the situations at the sites. And what we have learned is that by involving our colleagues at the individual sites in this water stewardship journey has really helped us identify the right approach at the different sites that we need to take. Like one size doesn't fit all, a similar solution doesn't fit all the sites. So I think that was a very, very important learning for us. Now we have actually talked about it a lot. We need to work with experts. We can't be experts in everything, and we don't want to be. So identifying the right experts and in the right regions is really important, so they can help us guide through the entire process. And then last but not the least, we need to think outside our own boundary. If we need to achieve water security for all, we need to think beyond reduction and efficiency within our own operations, and we need to work with the communities. We need to work with other stakeholders of water in the regions where it is needed. And I think with that, we would end the session today. Thank you everyone so much for listening in. And with that, I think I would open the session for Q&A. I see some of the questions on the chat, but we can take those. But if you can unmute yourself, raise your hand if you have any questions, then we can take them one by one. It seems everything was super clear, and then there are no questions around what we have here. Okay, but I see some of the comments in the chat window. One of them says, addressing water security needs a collective effort and is rightly seen as a pre-competitive space. What plans does Novozymes have to share these lessons more widely within your industry sector? I would be interested in discussing how we can share these lessons within the 160 members of the Alliance for Water Stewardship. All right, and this is Adrian asking. Thank you, Adrian, for your question. Sanjay, is there anything that you would like to add to this question? Would you like to take up?
Can you clarify a little question?
Yes, so Adrian asks, what plans does Novozymes have to share these lessons more widely within your industry sector?
Yeah, great. I think great question, Arjan, and I can share a few examples. So we work in industrial area, the Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation, and I proudly say that we inspire neighboring companies, and they approached us to do any water project along with together. So that is one simple and inspiring stage of our project. Second is we are actually launching this on all the forum. So that people come to know what projects can be done in the water, because everybody wants to address water risk, help society, help the earth, but how part is always missing. So we are using all the social platform. After this session, we'll be launching this video on all the platforms of Novozymes, so that everybody come to know about these projects. Yeah, over.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think that was really helpful. If there are no more questions, then I would like to take an opportunity to actually ask a few questions to the audience here. Looking at the challenges that you face, would anyone would like to share some key challenges that you have identified while implementing your own water stewardship efforts? I think that would be really nice to hear and also understand how you are addressing that challenge.
And Paul, I saw a question is about what were the key challenges when developing white lines, right? And maybe I can have a simple answer on this. Actually, when we doing the white line projects in China, and I think one basic thing is to get the support from the top. Internally is the management team, and maybe externally is the government. And the reason why we were able to start doing this was from the internal and external supports. Because internally in Novozymes, we have these water projects anchored in our sustainability strategy. And externally, actually a wetland protection law took effect on June the 1st this year in China. And this is the first time to have a dedicated law for wetland protection. So I think this is one most important things. And secondly, I feel we are not the experts in this area. And I think one important and challenging thing is to identify how to involve in this project as a company. During the project, we want to have a high engagement, and we are thinking about to use our environmental specialist resource to engage in the early study of the wetland status. And maybe after we get a management plan, there will be many opportunities for a company to join. So this is the two parts I think is the important part and challenge part when engaged in the wetland projects. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a building on question to the wetlands. How do you plan to measure ROI of your water stewardship activities? I think that's a really great question again, Carls. If I may try to answer this, I think, though it's a great question, it's also one of the most difficult questions for anyone to answer. Measuring your return on investment, especially on water stewardship activities around collective action, around wetland conservation. And we are in the process of figuring that out together, our partners, on how we can assess what is the impact that we have created. Some of the partners that we are working with are, of course, WWF, but we are also following the methodologies that are out there on measuring the impact on water stewardship activities. And the understanding that we have right now is one, as you saw in the example of our collective action project in Patal Ganga, Mumbai, there we are trying to measure the return on investment with the help of how much water is going to be restored in the basin, and then also trying to understand the social impact that we create. It could be in terms of the number of hours that the women save, while not traveling to fetch water for longer distances, and how it is impacting in terms of increased livelihood or increased income, because they can perhaps use that time to engage in any other activity that can fetch them income. So I think these are some of the ideas that we have in terms of how we can measure the impacts and the ROI of our water stewardship activities. And I hope that answers your question.
Can I build on that a little bit, Kopal?
Yes.
There was a line in there about like, when are the low risk sites not required to do more? And I would say we're never not required to do more. The site that I'm based at in Ottawa is very lucky with water. We have a lot of it and it's very clean. So in our site, we're not so much focusing, or rather we are more focusing on preservation and how to support the basin. So for example, we've engaged with a local organization called the Water Rangers, where we have test kits that we purchased and we go out and we measure basic water quality parameters when we're out with our families in the region. And we're using that data, we're uploading it to an open source platform to basically build data to better track the impact of things like climate change on our waterways. So even in really low risk areas, there's always something you can do to support your basin and to support your community with respect to water. So we're never done. This is not a one and done. This is a continuous project for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Helga. I see one more question by Sayed. Have you considered targets such as water positive or neutral in long term at all sites? Is it ever achievable for a water intensive industry? Wow, that's a great question, and that's a tough one. I have to say we are aware of a water positive and water neutral concept, and we have evaluated that in the past on whether this is something that we would like to basically imbibe. I think Novozymes, when we started our water stewardship journey, for now we feel that having a contextual approach towards water management is the really right way to move forward. As you also know, water positive or water neutral society, it's an ideal world that we would like to be in, but it's also a concept that is very difficult to understand at this stage. There are so many uncertainties on how you can really achieve your consumption within the sustainable thresholds of the basin you are, and then what really water positive would mean for a particular water basin. So we are keeping track of what the developments are in this space, and we will definitely follow what the guidances are. For now, we think that addressing the challenges through a contextual approach is giving us a very good direction, and is also at the same time, following the science-based approach is further building on to understand how much do we reduce or how much pollution do we need to address in the priority sites, and that will eventually take us towards a more water positive society. So yeah, I hope that clarifies or that answers your question, if not completely, but this is where we are, and this is where our understanding is for water positive society.
And his next question is it ever achievable for water intensive industry?
Mm-hmm.
And we are biotic, and we are biotic powerhouse, and we are water intensive industry, and it is achievable for us. That's what we are dreaming about for our goal 2030. So answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Are there any more questions? Well, I will take that as a no. But with that, shall we close the session today? We still have some time, but if there are no more questions, I would like to thank everyone who has joined us today to hear Novozymes' experience with the contextual approach and what we have done so far. If there are more questions, feel free to write to any of us, and we would be happy to connect outside of this session. We would be happy to also collaborate if there are interesting projects, if there are interesting ideas from your end. Please write to us, and we would be happy to connect and also answer any questions that you might have after the session. Thank you all of my colleagues who have joined from different parts of the world today. Thank you for your time, and thank you everyone who have joined today. With this, we end the session. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.